Driveline R&D podcast, episode 59. This is Alex Caravan, Driveline Baseball Manager of Data Science, sipping on a mango passion fruit because we got a sub 21 person in the Zoom meeting. I don't want to be drinking any of the alcoholic. No, I'm not getting slapped for any minor possession. Lindley, go ahead.
Kyle Lindley, sports engineer, Driveline Baseball, ripping a Budweiser today, keeping it simple.
Oh, that's nice. Anthony Brady, manager of sports science, Driveline Baseball, biomechanics, drinking a slightly warmed Nalgene of water straight from Salt Lake City Airport, actually. This is the Driveline R&D Research and Drinks podcast, episode 59.
And we got a special guest today, some of the muscle behind the analytics wing at Driveline Baseball. Not talking about myself.
All the muscle.
Talking about Noah Thurm. How old are you, Noah? 17?
20.
16? 20? Okay.
Yeah, actually, just graduated from being our manager of elementary school ops. So,
I mean, I'm down to getting academy reports, but yeah, a quick intro to Noah. One of our new baseball operations analysts came on Driveline almost 9 months ago. You kind of want to give a quick blurb where you were and where you are now?
Yeah. So baseball ops analyst. Started as a hitting analytics intern in September. Current sophomore at Georgetown University. Hoya Saxa, Big East champs. Nobody can take that away from us. Riding that one for the next, I don't know, maybe decade. Prior to that, worked a little bit with the team at Georgetown. Played in high school. Really didn't start venturing into analytics at all until last year. Have spent the last 6 months sort of getting up to speed with mostly hitting stuff at Driveline, and now transitioning into more of a general bebops role.
I didn't realize that your background in analytics was so recent. You said it was just like in the last year. Yeah,
I opened our studio for the first time Christmas Day 2019, I guess.
Okay.
Winter break.
What got you interested in it?
Yeah, so I had started working with the team freshman fall. had gotten in touch with our former pitching coach, who just took a job with the Astros actually, and had worked through the fall. And like analytics is a pretty liberal description of what we were doing then, just because we just didn't have the technical expertise. So it was a lot of like Google Doc scouting reports. And I just figured like if this was something I was going to be devoting like a non-zero amount of time to, might as well like try and do it somewhat in a more legitimate way. We had a TrackMan, so we had access to a bunch of data. We were in like the sharing portal, so we had data on other teams. And I just figured it was just an opportunity to be more of a higher leverage sort of addition to the team. So I just started plugging away, and that's sort of how I got into it. Just kind of had access to data and sort of ran.
That's really interesting. Yeah, like as a non-baseball ops analyst, that's like somebody who isn't super in tune with like advanced statistics and a lot of like modeling in baseball and everything. My perception was that you've been doing this for a long time. You're obviously very talented. You've done a lot of really cool things at Driveline, and it's just really surprising to hear that you have only been coding in R for less than a year and a half. Were you interested in like public analytics research before? Like, did you have at least a base knowledge? Because it seems like for what you've kind of put out internally and also like on in the public realm, it seems like you have more of a background than that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was always pretty well read. Not like super deep. Like I probably could not have. I don't know. Like I was gonna say, like I probably could not have just like name dropped linear weights off the top like last winter. Like played in high school, had always been like aware of Driveline. Like I'd read stuff on the blog, mostly when I was playing to be not trash. Thought about playing in college, decided to play school, and was just sort of looking for ways to stay involved with the game. But really had not done much of anything, and was I would say pretty minimally like in the know, like in terms of analytics, which can be, for as much stuff that gets put out, like I feel like it can be sort of insular in that like there's like a sort of inner circle of knowledge that like is sort of harder to tap into, and like parts out when there's just like such volume of stuff that gets put out. So I would say like definitely the thing I did have was sort of the like underlying knowledge of the game, feel for the game, which like enabled me to ask like good enough questions that it sort of guided my own progression, both technically and in terms of like the analytics knowledge.
Noah, do you remember who you lost to in the bracket I put together last? I honestly don't remember. I was
Machino.
How Caravan starts every guest episode that was in that bracket.
Dude, yeah, because I was gonna say, I think you like very quickly got your name out there in a couple public pieces, right? Working on a couple of projects that authors like Ian Osiris, Ben Lindbergh wrote about, gave you a shout out in bylines or within the content of the article. And I mean, like I've kind of said like internally, but also I'll say on the podcast, I've said like couldn't go to a more deserving person since you've done. You have not only like asked the right questions, but also pushed already, in my opinion, like the boundaries of some existing research, and are like really passionate and driven about that stuff. So it like also makes me really optimistic about how someone can rise in the analytics world pretty quickly, since your path has been like Lindley mentioned, less than a year and a half and less than a year at Driveline. What kind of like now they're looking back on it, what was your perception of Driveline before starting work here? What are like, what's something that you've gone way better at that you didn't realize you'd get better at? And what's something that we like maybe don't spend as much time on, or like a perception that's not as accurate from going into Driveline?
Yeah, so I think I don't know, as is true of probably a lot of people, period, but also like a lot of people my age. My first like exposure to Driveline was like the live AB videos, like in high school. Like I mean the first season of live ABs, I was probably a sophomore, maybe even younger. But so like was interested in the concept as I got older, and was sort of more serious about playing. Like was more invested in it as like from like a skill acquisition perspective and like the sort of like training methodologies, rather than honestly even the like blog or like public facing analytics work, which definitely flipped like once I was done playing and like working. Then it was like I was trying to consume as much as I could. I honestly think that the biggest thing that I've sort of gotten better at since coming to Driveline is just like, I mean, being in a position where like I'm coding for it 40 hours a week, like working full time. You just don't really have a choice but to get better technically. Like I think I was considerably weaker technically than I was, feel for the game, knowledge for the game when I started, which like can be an intimidating position because it can be difficult to translate your ideas if you can't, if you don't have the technical expertise to back it up. So I definitely think like I'm just miles better than I was in September, just because like, I mean, it's almost the same amount of time, like from when I first started coding to September as it has been from then till now. And I'm just doing it way more. So like the value of the reps, like honestly, the same things we preach to our athletes is true in this context. That just like, there's something to be said for just pure repetition, and just putting the time in to like seriously invest in getting better. I also like, I think the number one thing I'd say is like different from my perception coming in or like what I think the perception is outside is I think we deal in absolutes a lot less than is sometimes portrayed. Like I think we're all pretty eager to be proven wrong because it means we're learning something new. And I think we sort of, in some people's mind, occupy this space in the industry where like, because we are to some people like an arbiter of truth, like we're sort of beholden to some of those things we put out. But I think internally we're like always looking for ways we're wrong or like not fully covering something, which I would guess is not always a public view.
You talked kind of along those lines. You talked about how coding so often and so much of your time spent coding here has made you way better technically. You applied a couple times, right? So for like future applicants, this is also, I don't know the answer to this for everybody listening. What are some of the things that you did between the first and second time applying that potentially made the difference for you to get the job and like for maybe somebody listening to get their foot into the door, get accepted for a role, and just grow in the baseball research realm?
Yeah, so I applied the first time last winter for a summer internship. Like had one semester of college on my resume, had not done anything. Like I was legit 2-3 weeks into like our period. So like, I mean, I did not get an interview. I did not deserve an interview. It was just a sparse application. But Joe, our director of R&D, wrote me back and I just straight up asked him like pretty much that question. Like, what do you look for in an applicant? Like what's sort of the highest leverage thing I can do between now and like whenever the next time is, to put myself in a better position. And the answer he gave me was to write, which I think maybe caught me by surprise at the time, given that like I think the predominant reason I wasn't strongly considered is because I was so light technically. But I think turned out to be like absolutely the right advice. particularly given the fact that like once you're in the role, like I said, there's really no choice but to get the reps technically to improve. So the advice to write, like think critically about these ideas, ask good questions, like figure out technically whatever I needed to answer them, but really investing the time into asking better questions, and communicating my thoughts. We started a blog, just our little analytics team at Georgetown, which was sort of like a pub/recruiting tool for us, like internally. So I had this sort of platform set up, and just started digging into publicly available data, some of the TrackMan data we had as well, and trying to ask good questions and deliver like concise and somewhat actionable results or sort of outcomes in a player development sense. And then I honestly think the thing, I mean, Joe has straight up told me that the thing that set me apart the second time around was just the like demonstrated improvement, more so than like the absolute skill or expertise. Because I still was, young and like still have not been doing this that long. But just the sort of change in the, I guess, 9 months between applications, I think is what contributed the second time. And Carrie, you can probably speak to that as well, since you were, like interviewing me.
Yeah.
Ultimately involved in the hiring decision.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I didn't even see your app the first time. Because the first time we kind of had a smaller applicant pool, and Joe just ran all the applicants or all the application processes or hiring processes, to say. And then second time around, Dan and I ended up hiring Noah. We hired Christian Hook. And then we kind of like staggered it a little bit more. We ended up hiring a couple more people, but this is like last fall. And I mean, dude, honestly, I thought your resume was crazy for like a 19-year-old. Because part of it is also like the variety of stuff, which we don't have to like get into too much since it's a baseball podcast. But you just have like so many, you just had so many diverse like interests and projects and stuff you'd been part of, and like you clearly had like put together some public source written materials. The fact that you had only picked up R within like the last year and had like had a lot of work done on the Georgetown dash was like crazy to me and Dan. Like, me and Dan interviewed you, and then we get off and we're just like, dude, we got to get him. We got to get him. And our budget was way more vague back then because we were just coming out of COVID. Had obviously not taken any money in from training the last couple of months. We were moving into a new facility, had just started opening up. Like, we had to say no, or we had to like kind of postpone people that we had loose agreements with for summer of 2020 because there was nothing for them to come like an intern at, just because our gym was shut down. And like we finally opened up the budget. Like Christian was an early like lead along with a few others in like the hiring process. We talked to you like a couple weeks after Christian, and we're just like, we just got to have both. We just got to have both for sure. And then we're like talking to Dudo and Gordo, and we're like, dude, you guys are going to need a hitting analyst. We'll make Christian more pitching specific early on, but you got to bring on Noah. We brought on Luce as well. Obviously, we split up a little bit more like different based on like your technical skills and stuff. But I mean, dude, you can imagine Dan and I after an interview, we're just like, bro, we gotta have him, just like over the top. But yeah, man. No, I like, and obviously, and also a fun fact behind the scenes. I think Dan and I also got a ton more hiring autonomy, primarily because that class was so talented, and I think like changed Driveline for the better. You, Hook, Louisa, like it was just, they're just like, okay, go ahead, like you run the hiring process almost unilaterally, which we did like this last spring. For better, what's up?
For better or worse.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
For your loss.
Yeah. 6 months from now, you guys are out, dude. I'm back to running the hiring process. Now, I was going to ask you one thing you brought up, and I kind of want to pivot a little bit to some more sabermetric talk, since it is, it is a new season, and we have some interesting performances and all new source of data and all this stuff coming in. but how do you like keep up to date with public research? And maybe like things have changed now, you're more in industry, but I think like you kind of mentioned, there is so much stuff out there, and it's not like a linear thing, right? It's not like, oh, you want to learn about like reliability of batted ball metrics. Here, read this. There's like 10 pieces that are like good to like really good, and they don't all say the same thing. And that's because they don't all use the same methodology. The exact study might be different, blah, blah. So I think a lot of stuff, like, people can be overwhelmed even with good quality writing. So what's kind of your approach there to stay up to date with everything?
Yeah, I think that now that I'm sort of, doing it every day, like it's pretty different. I don't I kind of bucket it into two main things. So like,
you better be toggling this also, dude. You better. What are you toggling this under?
Content, dude.
Okay.
We got a project for that, dude. I swear, dude. Anything. We got a project for it. So I think it sort of separates into two areas. One being like what I'll loosely call like methodology, which like for me personally doesn't actually skew particularly baseball heavy. So like I read a lot of part of it's for school, part of it's like personal interest. I end up reading a lot of like what I'll loosely like put under the like applied stats umbrella, but in like other fields, which is interesting for me to look at like different like regression or modeling techniques, statistical processes like used in other industries, or in other disciplines. So like I read a lot of like econometric and then like political science and IR papers to stay up to date on like the more like heavy technical stuff, just like how we like come to some causal claim from data, which is like ultimately what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to like sift through like a ton of data and identify something that is like reliably causal and then like also actionable for a training floor or whatever. And then on the baseball side, my reading now I think skews like pretty overwhelmingly qualitative, because like I'm working on the quantitative stuff so much. And I think what is more valuable to me personally is like people who have access to players, coaches, whatever, who have different opinions. Not to say that like there isn't tremendous research done on publicly available data, but I do think there is something of like a carrying capacity where there's only so many ways you can stretch the StatCast columns that do get released. So stuff like David Laurila for Fangraphs has really, really awesome Q&As where he's talking to anyone from like recent draftees to like major league coaches about the game. Like one that stood out to me particularly as this kid Justin Foskey was Rangers' first round pick in 20, I believe. It might have been 19. Played at Mississippi State, third baseman, talking about hitting. And then like the guy's like, I don't know, 22 is like one of the most mature approaches that I'd ever like read. So stuff like that is most of the baseball content I consume, like interview format, because I want to hear how players think about hitting. I want to hear how coaches think about hitting, and sort of get that insight from places other than Driveline, so I can start to think about like how I can translate what's in my our studio environment or what have you into something that like those people or those type of people can actually use.
Outside of baseball, is there when you were saying like applied statistics, looking for stuff outside of baseball, is there a field that you more commonly like pull from in terms of like reading, like a field out there where people are doing like really dope stuff with applied statistics that you lean on?
Yeah, I think in terms of like thinking about how you like deal with like data problems, be it like coverage gaps, like endogeneities, stuff like that. Like I think reading the econometric papers is pretty helpful. Just in terms of like how you go about. I mean, not all are good, obviously, like everything, but I think those are pretty interesting. Just in like the front matter, where you're looking at like how you go from like really, really messy like survey data to like something that's like tidy enough to like run a regression on at all. Which, like, to be completely honest, like there are just some data sets that like they're just too noisy to even be worth like plugging through a model. And that's like a serious decision that like needs to be considered before you just start like throwing it in and like doing whatever you can to like bump R squared. So stuff like that. From like a more like qualitative perspective, I guess, like I know like in my head I draw a lot on like game theory when I'm thinking about like batter approach. Like I did a project internally that was sort of birthed out of like a game theoretic optimization of like swing behavior and batter approach. So trying to like think about, you know, the sort of like mental models in other fields that are in like similar sort of like, I guess, like adversarial context, like batter pitcher. It's something I find like just personally interesting, but I do see some parallels sometimes, but also pretty cautious not to like overfit to like something that has nothing to do with baseball just because it would be cool.
Yeah.
All right, man. Be honest. How much do you make on GME? I know you were running the stats, bro.
No, dude. I told myself like no day trading. No sports betting. Because I feel like once I get into it, it's a real slippery slope. I already have too many monitors to be able to do that. Like we've reached the point where like I just can't start.
Dude, data science just becomes day traders and just starts pumping out econometric pieces.
Dude, I'm the same way. I'm the same way. That's why I haven't like I gamble a bit, but I don't want to get too into it because I don't want to be like spending like hours a week doing that. But I told Brady this. You guys don't know, but I just missed out on one of my biggest dog bets. I threw $50 on UCLA at 8-1 odds this last weekend.
Gosh.
Did you guys watch that game?
Wait, they were plus 800 when you placed the bet? I saw that they were like plus 700.
I got them at 8-1.
Damn.
$50, so I get $400 back on it.
Yeah.
They lost in overtime on that like 40-foot buzzer beater.
Yeah.
Bank shot, dude. I was watching it with I was watching.
You were just watching it. We can just say that. You were just watching it.
Okay. I wasn't gonna say anything. I wasn't anything racy, dude.
I was with Caravan for the Super Bowl, and that was nuts. I don't blame you for wanting to stay away from
I tripled down when the Chiefs were plus 430 late in the third quarter.
They were getting dominated.
I was like, triple down. I don't give a fuck, bro. Mahomes is not going down to 43-year-old Brady. Throw more money on it.
Probably good idea to not go too hard in the gambling arena.
Yeah.
Kind of popping back over to the new season. This is a broad, open-ended question, and probably needs maybe a little bit of context. But I'm curious to hear your general answer. What are you most excited for from Hawkeye data, which kind of took over last season in a shortened season? Not everything was publicly released. Some observed spin axes were released, which led to a lot of public research looking at axis deviation between observed and inferred spin axes, which, for lack of a better term, a lot of people use as evidence of a seam-shifted wake, phenomenon, and using that to link to how that impacts the actual run value of those pitches. Like, do sinkers that have an axis deviation perform better than ones that don't? We had a couple pieces on this. A lot of like Barton Smith, Alan Nathan, Harry Pavlidis had some pieces on this as well. But that was kind of the main breakthrough last season in terms of Hawkeye data. And like none of us really know at what pace like the MLB will release the slow trickle of public Hawkeye data. But I guess again, like kind of a naive question, but what would you want to see? Slash, like, what would you expect to see sooner rather than later from Hawkeye data?
Yeah, I think without a doubt, it's like 3D swing characteristics. So like having swing level, bat speed, swing plane, like attack angle, and point of contact would be just unbelievably dope. Like I know TrackMan picked up point of contact, but was never publicly released. Hawkeye now will have at some point modeled bat speed and attack angles. Is my understanding that the models were not quite ready, whether or not they plan to release them to the public or not last year. But I think they've been tightened up, and like from what I hear, they're pretty good to go. So like crossing my fingers that we'll see those at some point. Just like when we see, when we see like tweets of like full 3D like animated recreations of entire plays from Hawkeye global positioning data, which makes me pretty excited about what we could learn. That like we have access to, with like just a higher level of like biomechanical data than pretty much anywhere. But having that from just such an elite subpopulation would just be unbelievable. So that'd be what I'm most hype about. Hopefully we see some of that in the public realm. But I would not be too optimistic about the timeline there, if we're being honest.
What about you guys? What about from a biomech point of view? I mean, I guess like we kind of don't really know exactly what Hawkeye data is going to look like. Like the not easy, but like low hanging fruit stuff is like just general like skeletons from the pitching mound, some posture related stuff. I don't know. Are you guys excited or thought much about how Hawkeye data might influence like biomech perspectives or analysis or kind of demands going forward?
Yeah, it could be pretty interesting. I think I'm honestly more on the end of like a bit apprehensive and worried about how it gets released. That's my biggest fear, especially just seeing how things have gone recently. Like no one really understood the impact that the term spin efficiency would have on pitch design and just like pitching in general, when they were just like, okay, let's call it spin efficiency and this is what it is. I think that there are way more opportunities for metrics and whatnot to go wrong on the biomechanics end, because there's so many more data points, and the way that it's communicated with the amount of nuances and limitations that are involved. I'm honestly like more worried and apprehensive about stuff like that. Like it could just go like kind of poorly to where like later on, we're having conversations.
We meant to call it active spin efficiency.
Yeah.
Like call it active spin.
There's some big thing about like, like torso pelvis separation or hip shoulder separation or whatever, and it's measured a certain way with Hawkeye in one data set and another way elsewhere, and then everyone just gets confused and frustrated. And so I don't know, as long as I guess in a world where everything's communicated well and the metrics are chilling, I mean, I'm super excited for it to be more popularized and people to have more access to kind of like data points for how elite athletes move. But yeah, I mean, the main thought in all of it is just like, I guess thinking of a lot of ways it could go wrong, kind of a thing.
I think it's really exciting. I like trying to think about like even if it does get convoluted, is when people communicating metrics and things that they find. Like there's undoubtedly going to be some of that, but I like to think that it's going to be more valuable than not. And like the people who make the right assumptions or address the limitations correctly, I think are going to be able to do some really, really cool things with it. I'm really curious to see how it compares with some of the big other markerless motion capture like methods and measurements. So like Kinettract and Simi, they have stadium units installed. So like I'm really, really curious to see how Hawkeye biomechanics and human movement stuff compares to Kinetrax and Simi, and how those compare to a gold standard system, which like I don't know how that's the like people capable of doing that validation in a stadium are pretty few and far between, I think. So like seeing how the system gets validated, maybe it's just like a reliability thing and like relating metrics in game to metrics that matter or metrics that we know matter, and then going that route as opposed to like validating the measurement itself. So yeah. I'm very curious to see how that goes. But like in a general sense, really excited for some of the things that we'll be able to learn about it, in particular fatigue studies and learning how pitchers fatigue and how they should be treated differently between basically the beginning of the season versus the end, or beginning of a start versus the end.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, I actually don't think I'm that excited on the pitching side relative to the hitting side. The getting like fairly accurate biomechanics data on the hitting side during like an actual at bat interaction is really intriguing to me. The more I think about it, because there's I can't really think of any other setting that even we could replicate. We could in the lab of observing how hitters adjust on a pitch to pitch basis with their like movement patterns and kind of like how they, I guess, hit various pitches in various locations. Like in pitching, it's really easy in the lab. I've been thinking about this lately with working on the hitting processing pipeline, because even in front toss and just like normal flips, there's quite a bit of swing kinematic variability in hitters, right? Which totally makes sense if the ball isn't on a tee. Like in golf, it makes sense how you can just take a couple swings and not have that much variability swing to swing on like a driver. But even just seeing our front toss data, you can get two fairly different swing kinematics from like pitch that's low and out versus up and in and whatnot. And on the pitching side, everyone virtually throws the same pitch to pitch. So it'll be interesting to see, maybe we can outline performance or like holes in performance that are actually attributable to like kinematics in that zone, like they just like can't effectively hit that ball there with their like swing characteristics. So definitely more excited on the hitting side, honestly, than the pitching side.
I think either way, it's like in our world, it would be like having motion capture, or on the hitting side, like K-Vest paired with blast, paired with hit tracks, paired with this other measurement. And we just which it takes a lot of effort to do. And just like this one system gives you measurements. I mean, we have to determine the reliability and all that stuff, but just like it's just like capabilities of it, but the theoretical.
Yeah.
That's the thing, though, because I don't know. This might be a loaded question, but I don't know if there's anything really publicly out there on how Hawkeye got validated. Do you guys know?
I haven't seen it, but I haven't really looked for it.
Like I know this is all I know. I know they had I know the process was pretty fast, and I mean it was thorough enough to convince MLB to switch from that TrackMan contract. Mm-hmm. But I know it was very, very fast. I forget what site they did a bunch of tests on, but I know that was a primary concern early or the beginning of last season, that they had spent so much time validating their metrics in just a few specific sites, and then there's stadium park errors, just crazy misreads during spring training and even the first couple of weeks of the season, and then they kind of went back and cleaned a bunch of that up. But I don't know. Do you guys? I mean, I would expect. I mean, I as a very interested third party, I would hope there'd be some sort of white paper or something, public open source on it, coming soon or at some point.
Are you saying on just on the biomechanics end, or on the pitch physics, pitch metrics, that end?
I mean, honestly, both. I was thinking more biomechanics side of things, but Yeah, I mean the pitch thing is always tricky because it's tough to have a ground truth, especially since I think all four of us know that various pitch technologies do have limitations.
Right.
And while like plenty are considered accurate enough to use and track performance and like boost understanding of the game, there are also holes. For example, seam to wake pitches, but even besides that, like certain like, back when TrackMan was a primary provider, they'd have to impute certain like combinations of exit velocities and launch angles. They were just kind of like spinning out the same pair. Like they weren't tracking every single batted ball. A few of them, if they had like ridiculous combinations, they would just be like, okay, yeah, that was a 60-degree pop up at like 72 exit velo, just stuff like that. So I don't know.
I mean, from what I do know, it's almost like two separate units. For what can actually be done on the biomechanics end. Like the stuff that maybe we'll see in terms of like player movements, like they captures all the positional data of players around the field. Like that's almost like a separate unit than what would capture like hitting and pitching biomechanics and like different frame rates. And then also there's no actual like process kinematics. I believe that Hawkeye will put out. It would have to be from somewhere else. So on that end, I honestly don't know. I don't know what the validation process is of just like tracking the joint centers and segment positions over time. I'm sure based on other stuff that they've done in the past, there's probably some like I would assume validation against a markered motion capture system, but I don't know. Yeah, I can't say I've read anything or seen anything. So,
kind of shooting backwards back to MLB data. What are some things that people should look for to kind of justify early season performances, in your opinion, Thurm? Like when it comes to, we're obviously talking about just a handful of games. Some people haven't even played yet, I don't think. But like even like a couple weeks from now, that'll still be a relatively small sample size. If someone wants to kind of get an idea of who's actually performing much better, seems like a change player, seems like they're adding more run value, what would be like your approach or your suggestion for people to look at?
Yeah, I think like as hard as it is to sort of assume or know that a player like reaches sort of a global maximum in a compressed time frame. Like I think you're honestly better off looking for peaks than you are for like trying to rip averages like in a compressed time frame. Like we know from in-gym data, and we've put out that like average bat speed can like stabilize sub 10 swings. So like if a player hits a ball harder in the first 2 weeks of the season than they have in their career to that point, like you can pretty safely assume that they're not breaking the laws of physics and they are just physically swinging the bat harder. So I think like glimpses of like peak exit velocities, top sprint speeds, mound velo, stuff like that, without knowing where the absolute ceiling is, like if they're new, I would trust them. I wouldn't necessarily trust them as like a player's new average or like his new standard. But I think those are like pretty fun to get bought into, and I think you're like pretty safe doing so, especially compared to like trying to take like a 2-week average of something, or like on the hitting side. I think I guess sort of going the like inverse of the question, like the things to sort of stay away from. Like I think it's really, really difficult to make any claims about approach or like play discipline or swing behavior in a short time frame. Like it's hard to do at a season level, but I think it's especially difficult to do in like just a handful of games. Like I think you see a lot of narratives get passed around about whatever a guy has worked on, like in spring training or in an off season, whether it's more patient, more aggressive, what have you. But I think those are all really noisy, and depend on sort of a lot of outside factors like pitch type, pitch quality, pitch location. So I say let the fun moments be fun, and like take the like max EVs, the like peak mound velos, for what they are.
Yeah, bro, it's crazy. Have you heard of Shohei Ohtani, dude? He's hitting the ball so hard and throwing it so hard, dude. That's crazy. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think he's tied for the lead league in barrels as we stand. I think he's hit either as many or like one fewer balls above 105 so far this year than he did all of last year. So I mean, I think the thing with Ohtani, I guess like if I'm staying true to like my last comment is like, it's fun, but like it's not necessarily like new. Like we sort of knew this was in the tank, right? Like we had seen the capability there. Like I think he was, you know, throwing harder more often, maybe last night than you know, in the limited action last year or even in 19. But like you sort of knew that this was the size of the engine, and the question is going to be, you know, durability, consistency. But like I said, the fact that he's hitting balls like, you know, closer to that max we knew was there, like more frequently is certainly encouraging.
Do you know, and actually, was he last year and the year before? Was he yelling as much when he pitched?
I don't think so.
Because, dude, that hearing that was fucking tight, and also that should 100% be one of the things, you know, that you should look for going into a new year. It should be like, are they grunting more? Hawkeye, dude. change in height and weight. That's a big one you missed, Thurm. Change in weight.
True.
Gotta look at that. Hair length, hairstyle, and I also think facial hair are big ones as well. Like
Garrett Richards leading the league in in facial hair above past performance.
Yeah, exactly. If you come in with new facial hair, you know, or like a new hairstyle, you're coming in with like some moxie, ready to like really attack the year. I think that's a sneaky indicator. I was gonna ask on the approach stuff because I was thinking about it when you were talking. Do you think you'd have to account for possible like team changes at all with guys? Is that like something to consider? I don't know if hitting philosophies are actually that different at the big league level, org to org.
Yeah. I guess I'll drop a nugget here, like something I'm personally interested in, that just like I haven't gotten around to, is running some kind of like mixed effects model on like hitting coach, because like I think as much as like big league hitters are like pretty independent, and it's like, you know, they're sort of going to do their thing. Like you do hear about like, you know, team level like approaches that do sort of get handed down. The one like most recently off the top of my head like was not actually from a hitting coach, but I know prior to last year and a little bit at the end of 19, Charlie Blackmon was like really vocal with the Rockies about like intentionally avoiding like taking advantage of cores because he thought it was hurting their performance on the road. Like it got written up in The Athletic. It was a pretty interesting article.
I think I missed that.
Basically, he said that like, you know, at cores you can like swing at a pitch that you can't elsewhere and like hit it out. And that was hurting the Rockies offensively when they would leave. So he like took it upon himself to like talk to his teammates about being more patient and like developing a real like sort of like more normal major league approach to use at cores. So like that was more resilient when they'd go on the road and try and avoid some of those really, really severe splits. Whether or not it worked is sort of a open question. Like purely quantitatively, the answer is like, it seems to be sort of no, but like I said, that stuff takes a really long time to bear out. But yeah, I mean, I think it does give credence to the idea that there are, you know, sort of team level factors that can influence approach.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it, I mean, lineup position is gonna change the way you're pitched. Who's ahead of you and behind you is gonna change the way you're pitched. And potentially, you know, your role on the team and like what you're trying to do. Like if you're the 2-3-4 guy on a weaker offense and you find yourself in the 7th spot on a generally better team, like it could pretty dramatically change sort of your at bat environment in a way that'll affect your discipline. Maybe like you can be a little more aggressive, or maybe you're forced to be a little more passive depending on where you are. So yeah, I think all of those things are just reasons why like I'd maybe pump the brakes a little bit on like jumping to too many conclusions about that stuff early on.
Yeah.
Player development wise too, I think, right? Like people can come to a certain team, and I mean I know the Dodgers were doing this a couple years ago where they were just chasing like lefty on lefty relievers that had like terrible peripherals, but they were just being like misused. Obviously, like easy example is Cincinnati. You know, some of our colleagues work with Cincinnati, and regardless of everyone's like performance as a whole, clearly like Cincinnati puts more of an emphasis on spinning the ball and kind of like targeting people that do that well, and maybe providing like analytic support or scouting support to help people optimize their arsenal. Also really quick thing I was going to say as an aside, I was just looking right here on my monitor for the StatCast 2021 leaderboard, but I don't think they've put it up yet. So I'm pretty down to just put that out as like a tweet later tonight as like a low hanging fruit. Just like max, what do you guys think? Like max EV in 2021 versus like max EV in 2020 as a quick eye catching tweet. I don't know if Lindley's passed me up on followers yet, but if he has, I'm trying to take the crown back
right now. Take a bet right now.
How you want to go right at 3,000, Lindley?
We'll smoke you to 3,000.
Yo, how about if I beat you to 3,000, and this is a plug to shout you out too. How about if I beat you to 3,000, wow. I get assistant manager for sports science.
Does that mean I get manager of data science?
Yeah.
No, you gotta pitch it. You gotta pitch it on something. But anyways, that was away from the. I don't know if you mentioned in your intro, but
you didn't, dude. He buried the lead.
Yeah. Kyle Lindley, now the assistant manager of sports science, or as we like to call him internally, sports science ass man for short.
The rumors are true.
I have one last kind of like sabermetric performance related question that I thought was interesting. I kind of threw it to Thurm before. I don't know if he spent much time thinking about this, but I'm really curious for basically all our opinions. But something that I think has been in the public discourse in the last couple of months and the last couple of years as well has been people using pine tar to spin the ball faster. And there's varying levels of knowledge about how prevalent that is, or how to track that, or all this stuff. And I know MLB put out a memo that they're going to start looking to it more and start like comparing people's spin rate to career norms. And then obviously like there's some, I don't know if that's a full, I don't know if that's like the full slew of like what they're going to do to try to catch people. But I know like there's a pushback, or like people were like, oh yeah. And then if people have been using it the whole time, like what's that mean? They're not going to like stick out or anything. So I was just curious, like just kind of shooting the shit. Do you guys have any ideas like how you'd go about like if you were going to design a spin rate a spin rate catch, how you'd go about it and what you'd look at?
I would just watch pitchers. It would be so. I feel like it's not that.
Just watch how many balls stick.
Like literally, just go to a baseball game.
Or how many times they touch the cap
with anyone. Yeah, I don't know. Like you can just watch a game for. Even on TV, you don't have to be there in person. You can just watch on TV and just be like, oh, okay. I mean, obviously that's like, we know what he's doing.
Dude, the camera will be zoomed in on Garrett Cole's hat, and you can just see a big brown spot where he grabs his bill.
Yeah. Or like just like the most unnecessarily like glove grabs are just like, okay. I mean, yeah, come on.
Yeah. Like I tend to agree. Like I think defaulting to spin rate. I mean, I think it raises the question of like, is your goal to like make the game fairer, or is it to like ultimately phase out the use of sticky stuff?
Yeah.
because like then it doesn't matter if like people have been using it, like it'll just be unfairly applied until those people like retire, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree that like it would not take extensive effort given the number of eyeballs that are on every game to sort of default to that. And I think I honestly don't know if that's even that much more arbitrary than like rip and spin rates. So I'd be fine with that.
All right, you're welcome, Rob. Manfred, give us a shout out on MLB Twitter.
Seriously. Yeah, I'm down. Just pay me. I'll just watch games and be like, okay, this is what's going on here.
Have there been any other pieces? I know there was a couple looking at some like with the Bauer comments, like the whole like is Bauer like doing an experiment or whatever because there was a whatever. But like, are there any other pieces where people had tried to answer that question? Like looked at whether it was like spin axis or like velo or like incorporating a I don't know, some like combination of them that you guys know of?
I mean, there's a good. I mean, I don't know how much we want to plug all the pieces here, but I'll plug this. We'll put the link in the description as well. There's a pretty good channel. I haven't watched a bunch of their videos, but I watched a couple called Baseball Doesn't Exist, and they have a couple like mini documentaries put together on like specific pitchers using like why they think someone's cheating or like how they've derived that. So that's the kind of it's not super underground. It's got 80,000 subscribers on YouTube, but yeah.
I think it's going to be really weird to see how it plays out at the MLB level. I mean, it's always been I feel like it's always been the case that teams are kind of incentivized to not say anything about each other just because, like, you know, like call out their guy, it's just going to hurt your guy as much kind of a thing. But I've been thinking about it lately with college baseball being back and seeing teams and I guess coaches start to call that out, how it kind of plays out in college with rulings there and maybe if they're a lot more strict. And I think that one, it's going to be a lot tougher to do like spin rate comps or anything, you know, because you're just going to have to be like eyeballing what people do. The whole thing is super weird. I mean, they should just, you know.
It seems like pitchers don't even really care. I mean, just like watching the first few games this year, I mean, it's still happening.
That's
like
what I'm saying.
The big statement that came out of MLB, like it didn't seem to keep anybody from doing it.
That's what I'm saying. They're like handcuffed, right? Just because if they do once, they set a precedent, and then, you know, if they choose to like isolate someone and be like, okay, cheater, you know, there's like people are just going to be up in arms. Like,
dude, the teams,
yeah.
You pay like hundreds of millions of dollars for like a pitcher whose performance might be tied to that.
Yeah.
And then it's like, yo, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
I got him for 8 more years. What are you doing?
100%.
You know, it's just so tough to, I mean, it's so tough to have like not an agenda and also address it fairly, and also address it thoroughly. Cause that's almost worse, right? Like trying to catch it and then doing something that affects like 40% of the pitchers. I'm just tossing out a random number. And then those 60% are even more powered up, relatively speaking. And then those 40% just like, you know, might have had their livelihood specifically impacted on like random chance or something.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like it could quickly fall into the like, you know, ambiguity of steroid era, like, you know, stuff. It's like, if you want to compete and with everything that's been going on, you just have to like do it. I think that this is an instance though, where it's not nearly as like, I guess, bad or like the steroid thing is like, okay, yeah, we should make this illegal, but this is like everyone's on the fence of like, is it that much of a problem, or like how do we kind of address it and approach it, kind of a thing, you know? Dude,
speaking of steroids, Thurm, as a kind of like final fun question before
how many steroids do you take? What the fuck?
Like no, dude, look. What do you got on bear?
Okay, that's way better, dude. I 100% thought you were just about to be like, Yeah, Thurm as the number one steroid user as far as
No, dude.
What's your stack? What's your stack?
My gift, my gift from Dan when I converted full time was a GNC gift card. I thought he got hacked. Like I thought it was a phishing email. I dropped in my inbox and it just said it was $50 gift card from Daniel O'Coin. Says only comment, Jack Thurm is the dream.
Dude.
I thought it was a bot until I read that, and I just thought there's no way. So
that's awesome.
Honestly, I thought that's where you were going with that. I'm not gonna
No, dude. Is Barry Bonds deserve to be in the Hall of Fame or what?
Yeah, absolutely. I got a plaque. I got a plaque on my bookshelf, dude.
Let's go.
My dad was at the game. He broke the home run record.
No way.
Wow.
That's so sick.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%, dude. Yeah. I think
same with Roger Clemens.
What?
Roger Clemens too?
Yeah.
No question.
Yeah, I think it's like I don't know.
They're too good. They're too good to not be in.
What's up?
Yeah.
I was saying it's one thing to argue a fringe player who used steroids doesn't deserve, but like when you have someone could feasibly make the argument for best hitter of all time and best pitcher of all time, like I think less people are making an argument for Roger Clemens, but I think he might be 1 or 2 career WAR as a pitcher.
Yeah, it's
just like too fucking good. Yo, should Lance Armstrong be on like the Mount Rushmore of bikers? Oh no, bro, he's trash. He used steroids. Come on, dude. He fucking won 7 years in a row.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say really quickly, a little bit, if you want to know a little bit of background on the GNC stuff, dude. I think I might have actually suggested GNC initially, but so I'll read you an exchange between Dan and myself on March 4th. He said, he was mentioned he's going to rip the gift card.
Oh no, dude.
I suggested.
We gotta wrap
it
up.
Wait, do I need to wrap? I don't know what Caravan's about to say here.
No. It's fine. I suggested 3 things. I suggested either GNC, Dude Wipes, or Condom Depot.
Okay.
And then Dan said, blah, blah, that'd be hilarious. And he said, does GNC sell condoms? We could do a hybrid where we tell them it's the GNC, but only for condoms.
There we go.
Damn it, dude.
That's where we go.
Anyways, thanks for coming on, Thurm. This is fun.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. That was solid.
Yeah.
Thanks for the call to the big leagues, dude.
Let's go. Wait, you're not going back to school, right? Next semester?
Dude, that remains to be seen.
Oh. So should we talk about this on a podcast, dude?
Yeah, we should get
Thurm's schedule.
Yeah, let's get this.
live Georgetown return announcement.
Yeah,
I don't know. They haven't said.
But you're in California right now, right? Not the place that's in like Fremont.
What's up? No, I'm back.
Oh, you are back. Okay.
Yeah. I'm in. I was in the facility this morning.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, wait, I can't tell what's going on here. I just saw Thurm in the facility. I was like, who's clowning here?
Jeez.
Dude, I got.
He didn't even have a beer.
Yeah, he's 17, dude. Of course he didn't have a beer.
God damn it.
All right. Thanks for coming on, man.
Peace, everybody.
Thanks for being on the podcast. See you later.
Peace.